In SeaWorld, there lived a 22-foot, 6-ton killer whale by the name of Tilikum. In 2010, he dragged a trainer into the water and drowned her. This would be the third person he killed. Psychologists and behavioral scientists tried to understand why the whale would kill. They wondered if humans were at fault, or if the animal chose to kill, taking into consideration the psychological implications caused by long-term captivity. One enthusiastic trainer was Brancheau, who first came into contact with Tilikum at Dine with Shamu show, was directing the whale to do tricks like a circus animal. People were watching, eating, chuckling, and having a grand time. When the show ended at 1:30 p.m. and it was time to take photos, Don directed the whale to dive down and take pictures. The whale has been doing the same practice for decades. This time, however, he did something very unexpected. He took Dawn's floating hair into his mouth and he yanked her down with him into the pool. Suddenly, this became a life-threatening emergency. One of the safety spotters immediately hit the emergency button known as Signal 500 to call for a rescue team. When the staff arrived, they described the scene as chaotic, scary, and noticed the animal acting wild and aggressive. First, the staff tried tapping the water to signal the whale to come up, but the whale ignored all calls. Dawn, though experienced and athletic, put on a long fight and struggled immensely against the 12,000-pound creature. The reports noticed that there was a moment she escaped, but Tilikum immediately slammed into her and grabbed her again. Above the surface, visitors were crying and shouting, asking if she would be okay. The whale was shaking Dawn violently. When he was finally guided into the medical lift, he still did not let go of her. When they managed to pull her free, one of her arms remained in his mouth. The paramedics noticed that she had no heartbeat, and they were unsuccessful in reviving her. She was gone, and they placed a sheet over her. All safety protocols failed that day, and this was the first time SeaWorld lost a trainer. The history of selling, capturing, and killing killer whales became a billion-dollar business in itself, and it wasn't until the 1970s that people began to see how unethical it actually all was. So much so that in 1972, the Marine Mammal Protection Act prohibited the selling and capturing of marine animals in the United States. Even though this was implemented, places like SeaWorld came around this rule, obtaining a permit to capture killer whales under the educational display exclusion. Fast forward, more rules were placed which forced the whale catchers to broaden their scope to search other countries. One in particular was Iceland, which was packed with killer whales and the origins of Tilikum. Tilikum's capturing story was quite sad. When the whale was just 2 years old and 11.5 feet tall, he was placed in a concrete tank for a whole year. He had only enough space to go in circles or lie on the ground, hearing only mechanical noises instead of the ocean. At Sealand, the killer whales would be forced into small containers for 13 to 14 hours straight. There were times the whales ignored the commands of going into the containers. They can be left in the main pool. The senior trainer informed new trainers that killer whales need constant stimulation and change, but ironically, Sealand and other marine parks had the animals do the same performance for an hour, 8 times a day. It was noted that because killer whales are so intelligent, the constant mundane tasks were quite detrimental for them. There were many instances where the bored killer whales would constantly look for new fun. There was concern over what might happen if a trainer accidentally fell into the pool. There have been instances where the whales acted unpredictably, dragging trainers into the water and biting audience members. One trainer quit out of frustration and took his story to the Canadian Federation of Humane Societies, describing the reality of holding killer whales in captivity in such an environment. Eerily, in 1989, he'd said something that predicted what would be coming in the near future. He said, quote, "I feel that sooner or later, someone is going to get seriously hurt," end quote. In 1991, 3 killer whales attacked and drowned another trainer in another marine park. She was screaming for her life. In 1999, Tilikum the whale had killed another individual by the name of Daniel Dukes. He was 27 years old, who sneaked into the pool. In the early mornings, a physical trainer saw a nude body on top of Tilikum, unmoving with puncture wounds and abrasions. People thought he was either crazy, suicidal, or was misled into thinking that Tilikum was just a friendly, gigantic animal. Regarding Dawn and her tragic death, the vice president of SeaWorld commented that she made the mistake of getting too comfortable and vulnerable with the killer whale. He said that letting her hair float near him triggered him because it was something new to play tug-of-war with. However, 2 witnesses said it was much more than just the hair, and that the killer whale grabbed her arms and shoulders, indicating a much more intentional act to kill. Additionally, everyone wondered why Tilikum became so violent when he captured her. People at the scene suggested that the noise from the emergency signal probably triggered his aggression more. A former trainer wholeheartedly believed that since killer whales are actually very smart, Tilikum intended to kill her, saying, quote, "There's no doubt he knew exactly what he was doing. He killed her," end quote. On January 6, 2017, Tilikum the killer whale died from medical conditions at the age of 36, living much longer than other captive killer whales. SeaWorld announced that the 28 killer whales they had left will be the last whales they keep. Dawn's struggle for life and her tragic death have stirred much controversy on using animals for entertainment, with the president of Ocean's Future Society even saying, quote, "Maybe we as a species have outgrown the need to keep such wild, enormous, complex, intelligent, and free-ranging animals in captivity, where their behavior is not only unnatural, it can become pathological. Maybe we have learned all we can from keeping them captive," end quote. What do you think caused Tilikum to kill Dawn? Do you guys think that he snapped because he was enraged and tired of being held captive in an isolated area all his life, while being forced to perform the same shows over and over again? Do you think something as small as hair was all that was required to cause the height of his agitation? Or do you guys think it was a combination of the external commotion, the signals, and her hair all that was needed for the recipe for disaster? I personally believe Tilikum was psychologically abused for a long period of time, and he happened to let it out on Dawn, her hair just being an initial stimulator. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below, and please like, share, and subscribe for more interesting content.